stand on your own without relying on what wants to find you. Growth also demands accountability. You can no longer blame your circumstances or the people around you for where you are. As you become more aware, you'll also become more responsible for your choices. That means making decisions that align with your higher self, even when they're difficult. It means recognizing that staying in old patterns is a choice, and so is stepping out of them. That level of responsibility can feel heavy, but it's also empowering because it puts your life back in your control. At its core, growth is about alignment. It's about becoming someone whose actions match their awareness, whose choices reflect their values, and whose life is built on intention rather than habit. And that alignment requires separation from anything that contradicts it. You're not leaving things behind because you're better than them. You're leaving because they no longer match who you are becoming. There's a reason going back feels so tempting, and it has very little to do with what's actually good for you. It has everything to do with comfort. The human mind is wired to seek what is familiar, even if that familiarity comes with pain, limitation, or stagnation. When something is predictable, your brain interprets it as safe. It doesn't matter if it's holding you back. As long as it's known, it feels manageable. That's why the idea of stepping forward into the unknown can feel so unsettling, even when you know deep down it's the right move. Comfort zones are deceptive. They don't always look like comfort on the surface. Sometimes they look like repeating the same mistakes, staying in situations that drain you, or settling for less than what you deserve. But because you understand how those situations work, because you've learned how to navigate them, they become easier to tolerate. You know what to expect, and that predictability creates a false sense of control. It tricks you into believing that staying is safer than leaving. But there's a cost to that kind of comfort, and it's often invisible at first. When you stay in what's familiar, you stop challenging yourself, you stop growing, you stop discovering what you're actually capable of. Over time, that lack of growth turns into frustration, restlessness, and a quiet sense that you're meant for more but are, ente allowing yourself to reach it. That's the real danger of comfort. Not that it feels good, but that it keeps you from evolving. Moving forward, on the other hand, requires stepping into uncertainty. It means facing situations where you don't have all the answers, where you might fail, where you might feel out of place. And that can be intimidating. Your mind will try to convince you to retreat, to go back to what's easier, to avoid the risk altogether. It will remind you of how simple things used to be, how you didn't have to think this much, how you didn't feel this pressure. But what it doesn't tell you is that simple often came at the cost of your potential. Discomfort is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're stretching beyond your current limits. It's the feeling of breaking old patterns and creating new ones. It's the process of becoming someone you've never been before. And that process is never smooth. There will be moments where you doubt yourself, where you question your decisions, where you wonder if it would be easier to just go back. But ease is not always the path to fulfillment. There's also a difference between comfort and peace, and many people confuse the two. Comfort keeps you where you are. Peace comes from knowing you're moving in the right direction, even if it's difficult. You can be uncomfortable and still feel at peace because you know you're growing. And you can be comfortable and feel deeply unsettled because you know you're stuck. Understanding that difference changes everything because it shifts your focus from avoiding discomfort to seeking alignment. Choosing growth over comfort is a decision you have to make repeatedly. It's not a one-time choice. Every day you'll be faced with moments where you can either fall back into old habits or step forward into something new, and those small decisions compound over time, shaping the direction of your life. The more you choose growth, the less appealing your old comfort zones become. What once felt safe will start to feel limiting. What once felt easy will start to feel unfulfilling, and eventually you reach a point where going back is no longer an option, not because you can't, but because you're no longer an option, not because you no longer want to. At a certain point in your journey, something shifts within you that you can't reverse no matter how hard you try. It's not loud or dramatic at first. It's subtle. You begin to notice things you once overlooked. You start to feel differently in situations that used to feel normal. Conversations that once made sense begin to feel shallow. Behaviors you once tolerated start to feel draining, and this shift is not something you can turn off. It's awareness, and once it expands, it changes everything. You begin to see patterns, not just in others, but in yourself. You recognize the cycles you've been repeating, the excuses you've been making, the ways you've been settling without even realizing it. That clarity can be uncomfortable because it removes the illusion you were once living in. It forces you to confront truths you might have avoided before, and while ignorance once gave you a kind of peace, awareness replaces it with responsibility. This new level of awareness also changes how you see people. You start to understand intentions more clearly. You pick up on energy, on inconsistency, on things that don't align with your values. Where you once gave endless chances, you now pause. Where you once ignored red flags, you now acknowledge them. It's not that you've become judgmental, it's that you've become discerning. You're no longer willing to accept what doesn't feel right just to maintain comfort. And that's where the real conflict begins. Because even though you see things clearly now, there can still be an emotional attachment to what you've outgrown. You might still care about people who no longer align with you. You might still feel drawn to environments that no longer serve you. That's the tension between awareness and attachment. One shows you the truth. The other pulls you back toward familiarity. And navigating that tension is one of the hardest parts of growth. What makes it even more challenging is that once you see the truth, you can't pretend you don't. You can try to ignore it. You can try to ignore it. You can try to go back to how things were, but it won't feel the same. There will always be a part of you that knows better, a P, part of you that recognizes what's happening in real time. And that awareness creates a kind of inner discomfort when you go against it. It's like your own mind refuses to let you settle for less than what you now understand you deserve. This shift also deepens your relationship with yourself. You become more aware of your needs, your boundaries, your emotional responses. You start questioning why you react the way you do, why certain things affect you, why you've accepted certain situations in the past. And that self-awareness leads to growth, but it also demands change.